Hello and welcome back to Politics on the Prairie. I'm your host, Dan Williams, and today we'll be going over some special maps depicting the State House and the State Senate, specifically overlaid with comparing the 2008 and 2020 elections. So recently, this publicly available website called Dave's Redistricting App added 2008 presidential data that is able to be mapped onto today's current precincts. So today we will be going over comparing the Republican with the Republican in 2020 and the Democrat with the Democrat in 2020 and seeing how districts and coalitions have changed throughout the state. As you can see here, and we're starting with the state Senate, and allow me to explain what some of these colors mean. So in the dark red, we have a lot of these rural areas, and these are districts where the Democratic raw vote turnout fell, while the Republican raw vote turnout increased. So as we can see here, we have District 5 here down in deep southeast Oklahoma, and we can see in 2008, McCain received 20,272 votes, whereas Trump in 2020 received 25,889 votes, and then Obama in 2008 received 8,305 votes, with Joe Biden receiving 5,300 votes. So, on the initial level, many people would look at this as a simple swing map. But the way the raw vote differs from, percentage swings is that we can really see population changes more pronounced through time by comparing these two elections. So the next category we have is these orange districts here. Gold orange, if you will, up here in northwest Oklahoma, just two of them. These are areas that lost, where turnout decreased with both the Democrats and the Republicans, but the Democrats decreased more. So we can see here that Republican turnout fell between 2008 and 2020 here in District 19 by about 500 votes, whereas Democratic turnout fell by 1,400. Now, this will be something that also comes up in the state house maps, and a lot of this has to do with population falling in these areas overall. So that'll be a little bit more pronounced as we get to see smaller sectors. In the light blue, again, just two districts, we have Districts 21 and Districts 11. District 21 being principally Payne County with a bit of Northern Creek County, and then District 11 rather, being Southeast Osage, and then North Tulsa, one of the black access seats we have in the state Senate. This is where raw vote turnout fell for both groups, but disproportionately impacted Republicans. So the margin got greater for Democrats, even though the raw vote turnout decreased overall for both groups. Now, this is particularly interesting. I think the reason it's happening in District 11 is there's a lot more commercialization, a lot of residential zones being changed into commercial areas, whereas in the Stillwater portion, I think there's a lot of population loss going on in Northern Creek County. As you can see, the loss wasn't particularly large. Democrats only lost around 600 votes, whereas Reps only lost 700 votes. So definitely keeping it close there, but it is an interesting trend to keep track of at least. So in our light red district, we only have one here in the state Senate. This is an area where both parties increased their raw vote totals, but Republicans increased their raw vote totals more than Democrats. So this is District 2, which is in the southern Rogers / northern Tulsa County areas. You have areas like Collinsville, Claremore, and Catoosa being the principal cities in this region. And as we can see here, Republicans added around 5,600 votes, while Democrats added only 300 votes in their totals. And what really belays here is that this is a growing area, and there's a lot of This is a Republican exurban area that is adding a lot of votes for its margins. Now we get into our periwinkle blue or light blue areas, as opposed to our regular blue areas that we previously covered. These are areas where both Republican and Democratic turnout increased, but Democratic turnout increased at a larger rate than the Republican turnout. So a common thing with these areas is that they are typical suburban regions. We have, for instance, in the Tulsa area, we have western Tulsa across the river, including Sand Springs, southern Tulsa south of the river, including Bixby, and a lot of the mixed area between Bixby and Broken Arrow. And then, of course, we have this eastern Tulsa area, District 36, which is mostly Broken Arrow, even including the Broken Arrow portion in Wagoner County. So a lot of these areas are similar in character. One thing that I'd like to denote that we're seeing, though, is what makes these areas markedly different from, let's say, District 2, is that they are becoming more diverse or less white. The same story is in here in the Oklahoma City metro, where we see Districts 15 and 24 and 42 and 22 and the newly crafted District 18 all experiencing similar effects. That brings us to our last color, where we can see, which is dark blue, which shows where Republicans lost raw voter turnout and Democrats increased raw voter turnout. And this is almost every single Democratic-held district, excluding District 11, plus a fair amount of Republican-held districts right now. What's interesting here is we can definitely see the rapidly left-trending Republican-held seats such as 47 and 39 in this category as well. But what also interests me here is that we also saw seats like 33, which is held by Nathan Dahm. But also, the area does seem to be more pronounced with areas that have higher bachelor's attainment, which again reinforces our point about education polarization becoming a major factor in Oklahoma politics. However, once we head to the State House, we can see there's a bit more of a mix going on. So whereas the State Senate only had one light red district, the State House map has a lot of these light red or cherry red districts where Republican turnout is increasing faster than Democrat turnout is increasing. So let's go into it very quickly here. Let's start with the dark red. Dark red is, pretty much the same area, mostly rural zones, as we see that urban-rural divide continue to bear out. In the orange area, we see sort of, a miniature version of the Senate map, though this time it includes District 37, which is Ponca City in North Osage County, and it also includes District 52, which is down in southwest Oklahoma. These areas were overlooked in the Senate map mostly because they are taken up predominantly by other territory. A reminder that a Senate district is about 2.1 times the size of a State House district. But it was particularly interesting to me is that District 61, the largest district in area, also saw a slight move towards the Democrats. District 61 is one of our districts that is rapidly becoming majority-minority with a large Hispanic minority. It'll be interesting to see what happens as these folks filter into the electorate if this produces a marked Democratic shift as opposed to just population loss being more concentrated on the Republican side. So, as you can see here, we have several colors located across the area. We have a lot of light reds here, and the reason for this is all of these light red areas are next to, the light blue areas that we covered in the Senate map, right? Or next to light blue areas, or combined with light blue areas that are covered in the Senate map. And so what I think is happening here is as we get more, as we get more of a smaller denomination area with the going from state Senate to state House, we're able to see more pronounced trends. Whereas we can see here in the kind of the Eastern Canadian county portion, where we have 41, 60, and 47, we can see Republicans are gaining faster than Democrats are, though 43 is one of those areas where Democrats are gaining faster than Republicans, but those areas are combined with areas in Oklahoma County that are trending faster towards Democrats overall. And we can also see here that we have quite a distinct chain of state House seats that are trending towards Democrats overall, and we have a minor couple of districts spread about where the population loss favors Democrats. 2377, 64 down in Lawton, 44 down in Norman. And we can also see that the two majority black seats have slightly shifted towards Republicans. I think this has more to do with that aforementioned commercialization of these areas, but it is also notable that these areas are a bit wider than they were in the past. Specifically in 97, a lot of this population, a lot of the black population in 97 is starting to move to different parts of OKC. Now, while these districts are still very safe Democrat, it is definitely an interesting trend to watch as things continue. The other interesting thing to note about this map is that there is a fair amount of exposure of Republican-held seats trending pretty solidly Democratic. I mean, we have 54, 95, 81, 39, 83, 100, 84, and that's just in Oklahoma City Metro. Whereas outside, we have 62 down in Lawton, and then districts like 76, 67, 69 in the Tulsa area. What is particularly important about this map is I think it establishes long-term trends that either party can look at in regards to margin building, because while typically we are very focused about the immediate cycle, it is important to strategically plan what the next few cycles may look like. And these areas in light red or light blue definitely highlight areas that are potentially competitive in the future if trends continue. This is especially true for areas that are colored opposite of their partisan hold right now. So, for instance, those seats we just went over that are Republican held that are trending dramatically towards Democrats. Now, because of the way polarization goes in Oklahoma, all those areas that Democrats previously held that have now trended towards Republicans are now held by Republicans. So that sort has continued. But as in many ways, why you ask me, I think Democrats have hit the floor in seat representation in either chamber. The great sort, if you will, has occurred, and the only way to go for Democrats is up. Anyway, that is a quick couple of maps I've put together that I think are particularly interesting. Getting this data to work over 12 years, or really 2 whole redistricting cycles, because remember the precincts in 2008 weren't even the same ones that we had in 2010, let alone the same ones we had in 2022 for the most recent election. So it is interesting to get this data fully extrapolated, and interesting to see if we can further do this across the state as we get more sophisticated tools for voter prediction. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all very much for tuning in on today's edition of Politics on the Prairie. I'm your host, Dan Williams, and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.